Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive and exploring more the wonderful world of Japanese cinema and finding more creative, more interesting kind of, Japanese directors. Some I'm seeing for the very first time in terms of the filmography, and some are getting actual first time releases ever in the UK, or being distributed on a wider scale that's never been done before outside of Japan. And it's really exciting as a film entrepreneur and someone who wants to kind of explore more kind of foreign movies, and being the fact my taste at the moment is lean towards more Japanese and kind of Korean cinema, flip between the two. With Hong Kong movies, I think it's at a bit of a stalemate at the moment. There is still a lot to check out, but I am slowly kind of like getting more intrigued by the lure of these kind of hidden, kind of forgotten and now rediscovered Japanese films, thanks to these amazing editions that are coming out, thanks to Third Window Pictures, your Radiance, even Arrow's kind of chipping in as well in terms of some of these really great editions that have been coming out, even with the new announcements of the J-Horror Rising box set, and Radiance with the Japanese Ghost Story box set coming out soon, October. There is plenty to check out very, very soon. And for today's video, we're talking about Gakuryū Ishii. I hope I said my name correctly. This is a first-time director for me. I'm doing a double bill review for this video, and I think it's appropriate being the fact there is limited amount of things I can say about both, but what I do have to say is quite positive, so I think it'd be a good double bill review. And both of these films, what you're talking about from the title, which is Electric Dragon 80,000 Volt and The Crazy Family, both available on the Arrow Video Store, part of the Third Window Pictures release. So you can get these on brand new HD editions, or you can rent them as well if you're not too sure about them. And I checked out both these films quite recently, and let's dive into the first one first with Electric Dragon, which is a 55-minute film. It's a borderline almost feature, one of my short film, and it is completely bonkers and it is delightful and wonderful. This is a really experimental, very fun kind of creative little project. It's all black and white. It's very much comic booky kind of thing, almost borderline superhero, but got that kind of like, horror Razorhead kind of edge to it in a sense. Reminds me of Tetsuo as well, very machine kind of like industrial, electric kind of thing, very kind of surreal kind of imagery. And it's very, very creative, released in 2001, and it stars just two main characters. Both of them are kind of been struck by lightning, and both have different types of abilities, essentially. You've got our main kind of protagonist character, which basically needs the electric guitar as an outlet to release the energy. He sleeps on this kind of electric powered bed, and he can talk to lizards. I don't know why, he just can, but he has an electric fist, and he has power, and he's a boxer as well. He's in a band, and it's just this really kind of steampunk, just kind of awesome character that's going around the town trying to find his lizard, which has been taken. Essentially, he can have communication with lizards, and he's just a really kind of out there type character. And I love his hairstyle and his look. It's very punk-like. It's really awesome. And you got the villainous character, which has control of kind of radio waves and has half a mask, in terms of a Buddha face, and even on the other side of him, his actual face, and kind of like a dual identity kind of going on. December control is kind of electric and radio waves, and he has a much kind of stronger output of electric, and he wants to find his adversary kind of thing, and he's been stealing the kind of lizards to kind of draw his kind of nemesis out, essentially. And that's the film. It's as simple as that. It's a 55-minute film of really interesting kind of experimental kind of ideas, very kind of interesting kind of viewscape on this kind of almost like an Elseworlds type world. And it's funny because the main protagonist of the film ended up being kind of Raven within the new Mortal Kombat movie, which I think is very fascinating, and gone on to do a very successful kind of American career. Electric Dragon 80,000 Volts, definitely recommend checking this one out, guys. If you're not too sure about picking this one up, go and check it out rental. It's very cheap. You can definitely rent it on kind of major kind of stores like Amazon or Third Window Pictures online. Definitely worth the kind of price to check it out. But very visually creative, very fun, lots of bursting full of energy in terms of its visuals, and it's kind of like how it portrays the kind of these characters in very interesting ways, and it's very, very enjoyable. I highly recommend checking this one out, guys. And lastly, we have is The Crazy Family, released in 1994, also available on the Third Window's release, part of the Directors Company which is part of their kind of little trilogy of kind of releases they've been doing here. And this is, again, very interesting, very heavily on the visuals, very creative, and it's kind of like its ideas. And the film lives up to its title, which is very much about a crazy family, similar to the vein of kind of like A Quiet Family. Korean film, basically running a hotel and then end up murdering a lot of people. This film is about a dysfunctional family that are so kind of used to kind of living in the urban kind of areas. They get this kind of really upper class kind of house. They are very, very excited. They get their own rooms, they get the space, and the pressures of maintaining that, I suppose, and the kind of societal kind of, stigmas that comes around being a homeowner or, living up to protecting your family and earning a living and all these restraints kind of thing. And it kind of buckles down on these characters. And it's a very unusual film. It probably has a lot more to say, maybe worth of kind of a second viewing or third viewing. It has probably a lot more kind of insight into kind of Japanese kind of culture during that time as well. Being the fact all the characters have very kind of odd traits in a sense, with the son being so heavy into technology and to the point where he's kind of like studying so much, he's kind of like stabbing himself. You got the daughter character, which is speaking in third person, wants to become a pop star. You got the wife character, which is very kind of promiscuous and kind of like very freeing and just kind of showing herself off. And you got the grandpa character, which is kind of like not acting his age and he's just kind of being loud and wants to have fun. And you've got this very kind of a stoic kind of, closed off kind of, husband character, which is just kind of observing the chaos around him. Whether this is actually accurate is interesting, being the fact that this film is based off a real life incident a couple of years prior to this, where a family man suffered from depression and basically had a very similar kind of mental breakdown essentially. And this could be a reflection of that character, seeing his family do all this stuff in a very, crazy kind of lunatic kind of way. It's hard to really say. There is aspects of this film I think are definitely worth a second viewing. I think it has a lot more going on, but it is a crazy movie from start to finish, playing with tropes, playing with kind of like, stereotypes within a lot of Japanese cinema. It opens very much a kind of like a full family American style sitcom, the music, and it's very fun and wacky in 80s, and the start of the credits and how these characters kind of introduce themselves is quite fun. A very heavily art house experimental film. I don't think it's going to work for everyone. Very similar to kind of like the Electric Dragon being kind of like a very outlandish kind of Elseworlds kind of superish kind of movie, very kind of steampunk. This has more of a taking the piss out of something like a sitcom or a Full House kind of thing. And similar again, I definitely think this is worth a kind of a rental maybe first. You're not too sure about spending £20 on a kind of initial release. Definitely check it out as part of a rental deal and then see how you can go on. But 2 films in from this director. There's definitely a lot to check out this director. I look forward to talk about more of it on this channel very, very soon. So what are your favorites of this director? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. In the meantime, guys, I'm for the reviews. So yeah.